Words are about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, brought to you by the Ad-Free Shows, Podcast Heat, and Wrestling According to Alba Networks. I'm John Alba. That's the broken one, the woken one, the spoken one himself, Mr. Matt Hardy. What's going on, my man? It's a loaded question, I know, but it's been a crazy week. Aside from everything on our podcasts and social channels, you had a week from hell, travel wise and work wise, man. I hear it was a busy one for the Hardys.
Yeah, it was a busy one. We were out of here on Tuesday. Wednesday, we had a 13-hour day of media. That was Wednesday, 13-hour day of media. Thursday, we had a little bit longer because we had a Hardy party that night, about a 15-hour day of media and Hardy parties and appearances. So very, very busy. Not a lot of rest for the weary. And then we had 3 days of TV, and we were definitely the most active performers, I would say, during those days. It was go, 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 no doubt.
Non-stop.
Thank God it was El Paso, because El Paso is an amazing crowd. They are a traditional Southern wrestling crowd, and give me that crowd every fucking day of the week. Every day of the week.
They were there for everything.
Yeah, they were there to be entertained. They were there to cheer their favorites and boo the guys they don't like, and that's the crowd I want every single time.
A lot of Latino heat flavor down there. Eddie Guerrero get some love from those fans.
A lot of Eddie Guerrero love, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
People that were there remembering us being there with Eddie Guerrero, and very cool, man. A lot of Eddie Guerrero love going on last week.
Yeah, that's his stomping grounds right there. They love them some Eddie Guerrero, and why wouldn't you? I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, you love Eddie Guerrero, at least if you love the right things about pro wrestling, which we do here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. This week, we're going to talk about 5-star matches, because that's a pretty relevant conversation to what's been going on, and we'll have a chance to expand on our conversation from last week, which I really feel like we were scratching the surface of something pretty good there, and I really appreciated the back and forth. And even if there was split opinions on how you felt about the particular topic at hand, thought it was good, productive conversation that is push and pull. And that's how this shit should be done, my friend. That's how you do this stuff. I like that. No screaming hot takes here on the Extreme Life. No Stephen A. Smith, Matt Hardy. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, I know it was a long week for you, and I know you didn't get a chance to see a ton from the pro wrestling world, but there were some things that I do want to hit on before we get into our conversation. First of all, was there a lot of buzz about AMC at the TNA taping the other day?
Huge buzz.
Yeah.
I also, on top of all the stuff we had to do at TV, we were shooting a lot of stuff for AMC too.
Nice.
I can tell you this, for the very first time, I rode a horse. I'd never rode a horse before, but myself and Jeff and a few others, we had to ride some horses for some promotional material, which was interesting. It was an experience. The Jimmy legs worked a little better on the horse than I expected them to, though.
Okay. You were able to straddle the horse. All right.
I was good with straddling. My legs are wide. My hips are anatomically wide. It's a Matt fact. My hips are a little anatomically wider than the normal male hip.
I guess it's a Matt fact that Matt has never been on a horse until recently. I guess that's a Matt fact too.
Yeah, I might could even update this week's Matt fact. Might have to give you two now that you just mentioned that.
What was your opinion on the horse?
I mean, it was fun, enjoyable. I didn't know how it was going to be at first, and then I can tell you this. So we were riding with Elias a little bit, right?
Okay, yeah,
and he
is the residential horse guy of TNA.
Yes, he is. He's an experienced horse rider and whatnot. Whenever his horse was leading and it was running, it was galloping a little more. That shit went a lot faster than you expect, and it's like, whoa, okay, all right, this is different from like a chill. This is different from like a walking pace. So it was real interesting, man. I felt like Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead.
Yes, I was curious if that was going to be AMC tie-in or if that was just going to be an Elijah tie-in. So there's some multifaceted elements at play there. I saw that Mustafa Ali doesn't like horses these days based on what's been going on over there. So that's a unique character to have. in pro wrestling. I will certainly give that. So you guys had some good buzz about AMC there. I had a chance to talk a little more with Carlos Silva too since we last taped.
I mean,
About
there was so much hype with the AMC stuff, especially the people that were coming through the meet and greets. And Jeff and I, we were there for 3 hours, following the PLE. We were sold out on Friday, which was very nice, and they were super lively. Meet and greet 3 hours, and we were almost sold out night 2, and then Sunday ended up being a really good turnout as a matinee show. But it was 3 very, very solid nights in El Paso.
Yeah, man. And look, I think it's probably a good strategy where you guys will do some live, you'll do some taped, mix it up a little bit. I don't think in 2025, 2026, people really care as much about this show needs to be live. I'm not going to watch if it's not live. I think if they like the TV show, they're going to watch the TV show. That's kind of my mentality on it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. I mean, I think live is very nice when you can have a live show on a more regular basis. That's a good thing, but I don't think it's mandatory.
Yeah, and so we'll see how TNA integrates some of that element of play into their programming in 2026, but it's gotten a lot of buzz. It's gotten some traffic. People are talking about it, and that's really all you can hope for as you go onto your new home and new ventures there.
I can't tell you this. We're gonna be live January 15th. We're gonna be live January 22nd in Albuquerque. The 15th is in Dallas. The 22nd is in Albuquerque. So if you live in those areas and you want to see some TNA wrestling, this is going to be your chance to do it.
And then Genesis is sandwiched in between those, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It'll be on Saturday. It will be live in Dallas as well.
Yes. So there you go. A lot of wrestling history in Dallas as well as El Paso. So those Dallas fans love their pro wrestling. So you should get some good crowds for those couple of tapings before you go on to New Mexico. Speaking of TNA, Leon Slater, big weekend for him, man. A couple things happened. Number one, he was part of the Iron Survivor Challenge match. And then number two, he's going to be teaming with Javon Evans against AJ Styles and Dragon Lee at Saturday night's main event for John Cena's last match. That's your boy, Leon Slater, right there. What do you think of his big week?
He had a big week, no doubt about it. We were in the last and final match of the whole TV tapings, and Leon was our partner as well. It was me, Jeff, Leon, and myself, Jeff, Leon, and Cedric Alexander versus the entire system in JDC's last match with the system as part of the system, which we had a pretty epic match too for that final night on Sunday.
That's fun. Love to hear that. Have you had a chance to see, because they've been doing it for 3 years now, have you had a chance to see the Iron Survivor Challenge match ever?
You know what? I haven't. Leon was explaining it to me. He said very challenging to put together. Yeah, a lot of stuff was entertaining, but it was very challenging. He did say that. I haven't seen it, and I'm not familiar with its rules or the structure or anything else. And I should probably look into it and try and check it out.
I'm glad that you said that he told you it was a nightmare to put together, because that is all I can think of when I watch these.
Challenging, right?
You're challenging, but I'm sorry, I didn't put that word in your mouth. I think it's a nightmare to put together and they're great. They're awesome matches.
It's funny. It's funny. Like whenever I said that on Ariel Helwani show, whenever I said, why's the partnership? Why did the partnership with WWE, NXT, TNA happen? I said, probably because of AEW's existence. And then all of a sudden, it's to hurt AEW. It's like when it got translated to.
No, I that was me injecting nightmare because I was saying these matches, if you haven't seen them, not just you, but anyone listening, they're awesome matches. They're really, really cool match concept. But they have to logistically be a total nightmare to put together. Just because there's almost no room for improv. There are so many different time cues that you have to hit. And then there's time cues within the time cues that you have to hit, where if you get pinned, then you go to a penalty box for 2 minutes, and then you come back in, and it's just like 1, 2, 3. It's rapid fire. So it works well with a guy like Leon. Leon fits right into the workflow of a match like that. But it's pretty hard to come up with new match concepts in 2025. Everything's been done in some capacity, so I can definitely appreciate some innovation there. Have you, and this is a general question, I guess, have there ever been any wild match concepts that have come across your plate at all during the course of your career that either did see the light of day or didn't see the light of day? Obviously, you guys are the innovators of the tables match and the tag team ladder match in TLC, but any others come across your radar?
I mean, I was the guy who was in the first ever scramble match, that we had. And it was a little different too. It was for the ECW championship. And they're like, if a guy wins, they're like the interim champion, but you're only an official champion if you hold the title at the very end when time expires or whatever. So that was, that was kind of, we were kind of breaking ground there, obviously, because those had never been done before.
Yeah. Yeah. This Iron Survivor's similar to a scramble, except people enter in intervals. And then if you get pinned, you have to go to the penalty box for 2 minutes and then you can come back. So it's similar in that sense, but then they also count how many falls you have. And the person who has the most falls at the end of the match is the one who wins the opportunity or the title or whatever the stipulation is. So
TNA had a match where you would have to go in a penalty box or something, right? For a minute. Was that
and
King
TNA King of Mountain? Yep. And TNA also had on the side of match concepts that maybe didn't work quite as well, the Battle Royal where they started outside the ring rather than inside the ring. And the whole idea was you tried to get inside the ring to then have a match. Just from a bygone era where we were trying a lot of different matches and seeing what would stick. Viagra on the pole, of course, is a classic that I can only wonder who came up with that one. Judy Bagwell on the pole is another one. But were there were any others that come across your radar? A Duchess of Queensberry, I always think of with William Regal back in the day. Right, was a good one. Any others?
Nothing specifically over my radar that
okay
comes to mind.
I know you had that whole cinematic match concept that did all right for itself. So.
Better than nothing.
Ended up being okay. But yeah, man, I mean, him getting to work with AJ Styles, that's pretty amazing that he's going to have a match with Dragon Lee, AJ Styles, teaming with Javon on such a big show. What an opportunity that is for him.
Yeah. No, it's a huge opportunity. And I can tell you right now, they WWE, they love Leon and Javon together, no doubt.
How could you not? They're an awesome team together. I really hope TNA gets to use AJ Styles at least once when it moves to AMC. I think that would be so amazing to see AJ in his last year wrestle at least one time for TNA.
I think so too.
So cool.
I think that's definitely something that is feasible and doable.
Yeah.
I also would love to see the Hardys versus Leon and Javon at some point too. I would like to see that match happen.
It's a natural match to happen, so I would hope that it would happen. The big thing on NXT, Javon won the Iron Survivor Challenge, and Ricky Saints, your boy, absolute Ricky Starks. Now Ricky Saints turned on Javon, so now he's getting his heel run in NXT, and usually that's a predecessor to getting that main roster call-up. So hopefully Ricky gets something, because, man, I would put Ricky in the Vision like today. I wouldn't even hesitate on that. I think he should be the guy that has been interfering in all their matches, quite frankly. He's got something. You a big Ricky guy?
I do. I think he is. I think he's at his best as a heel as well. I think when he's in that role, I think he's at his best.
Yeah, super charismatic too. And then that's all leading to John Cena's last match, man. Here we are. Next week's episode will be all about the legacy of John Cena, and as he wraps up his career here. But this is it, man. He and Gunther this weekend, and they set the stage for the match where Gunther cut a promo, and it was pretty much as simple as this. You're the greatest sports entertainer of all time. I'm the greatest pro wrestler of all time. You never gave up. I make a habit out of making people give up, and in your last match, I'm going to make you give up. Pretty simple to me, man. Lay the groundwork for that. What do you think of that?
I think that's great. It's simplistic. It's to the point. It's very easy to define, and you know what you're looking for when you watch the match.
It's hard to build a match too on 2 weeks' notice and not having John there as well. So you have to make something work. Did you see that John said in one of his interviews he's been doing that he offered to do 200 dates for WWE this year, and they said no?
I feel like I did see that. I feel like I definitely read that caption. I don't know if I watched
Yeah,
the official clip of it, but I think I
yeah.
saw that caption. Yeah.
He wanted to work 200 dates, and they're like, "No, we're good with 36." And I heard that, and I'm like, man, the industry has just changed so much in the
I mean,
last
I
few
don't
years.
even do they officially do 200 dates for
That
him
well,
to
that's
leave?
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, they don't even do 200 dates a year anymore. They don't do house shows anymore.
Yeah.
So it's so crazy how much the industry has changed in that sense. Which I don't know. I'd love your opinion. Like, there's positives and negatives to that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's one of the. I mean, I heard something recently too where people were saying, "Hi, hi, just talking. You good? Okay." Yeah, I heard something recently too where because they weren't doing live events, that some people were saying like, "Oh, well, it's just harder because we don't stay. Our wind isn't as good. We don't stay in shape as good, in ring condition because we don't get to work as much." And I can see that, being a realistic thing too.
And especially for young talent as well. Like, those reps are super important to
Those
get.
reps are, I mean, they're massive. They're massive for young people. I mean, house shows are a chance where you can try new things, you can experiment, you can see what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and it's really a good gauge to kind of figure out all your shit before you actually put it on TV.
Well, exactly. And it's like, especially with a lot of these young NXT talent types where they're not going up to the main roster to work dark matches anymore. They're not working house shows all that much. I feel like those would be so beneficial from getting outside of the performance center environment and actually integrating and working with a lot of different talent and in front of a live crowd too.
Right.
So
What one thing I can tell you is just like I know all those house shows that we worked with Adam and Jay, with Edge and Christian over and over. I mean, that's what really established our chemistry. And like once that was reported, like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. The more they work together, the better they get, the smoother they get. And just having those matches, that's what ultimately led us to having a program on TV and got us, hooked up with Michael Hayes and the recreation of the new Hardys at that time.
because that's what the agents would report how the shows went and who got over and how the matches went, right? That's kind of what the workflow was.
Yeah, I mean that's they would report, accurately, like progression, how the crowd was reacting, just generally how they were working as the WWE, what they want out of their product, and they would compliment guys who were, really excelling, and they would say if guys were not moving as fast as they wanted, like, oh, maybe this person isn't ready, they need to do something else or whatever. It was a great way to kind of figure out where everyone was on the spectrum of talent.
Yeah. So I think that that's kind of a bygone era. I commend John a lot. I think him wanting to work 200 dates and give back is a pretty cool thing. Willing to put his Hollywood schedule pretty much on hold to work for WWE in that final year, I think is a really noble thing. But wasn't in the cards, and here we are. We're at his final match. So yeah. I don't know about you, man. I'm gonna be a little melancholy when it happens. It's like, oh shit, like this is really it. I felt that way about Sting too, and this is kind of it for him.
For sure. I mean, I felt that. I mean, it's you're gonna bereave those guys that you don't see them wrestling anymore.
Yeah.
John Cena will be the same thing. I will miss him. I mean, he's a staple of pro wrestling. Whether you love him or you hate him, whether he's your favorite or you despise him. I mean, he's a staple of pro wrestling, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So best of luck to them as they have their final get together there in DC, WWE and John Cena. And he did announce that he signed a 5-year ambassador contract with the company to continue after he retires. So I don't see John not hanging it up after this. I think this is his actual real retirement. There's a lot of talk on the internet this week how people think they're getting worked because of how WWE's done the whole Unreal stuff this year and all that. John well enough. I feel like he's probably a man of his word on this.
Yes, I would imagine this is probably legitimately it. I mean, could it be something else and they're trying to throw a swerve? It could be, but I doubt it.
I think it would be bad faith to sell a show on being John Cena's last match and then be like,
sure,
just kidding, it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be like some sort of immediate turnaround if they were going to do something. But I think as of right now, it is legitimately plan to be his final match.
Yes, I agree on that. You can never say never. Shawn Michaels came out of retirement.
I think he's going to be around WWE. He's going to be appearing. You're going to see John Cena in the future, and if something comes up that is an interesting scenario, I don't know. Who knows? But I think he legitimately wants this to be his final match. I think he does want to be a man of his word.
This is the end of his full-time run here. I mean, look, Shawn Michaels shaved his head and came out of retirement in Saudi Arabia, so you can truly never say never. But we'll find out how that unfolds over the. All right, man. I want to get into this conversation with you, but before we can, I got to ask. Please hit us with your Matt facts.
Matt fact: Matt treasures wrestling in El Paso. Matt fact: Matt rode a horse for the first time ever.
Do you know what the horse's name was?
Smokey.
Smoke?
Maybe Smokey?
Okay. Was Jeff's horse Bandit?
I'm not sure.
No? Okay.
I don't think it was.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, you never know. They like to make things cute down there. Matt Hardy, how long and hard was the Expedition of Gold for you?
Oh, the Expedition of Gold was very long and very hard. And, there's an easier way to do it than the way we did it. You know what I mean, John?
There certainly is, because it's time to level up, and Blue Chew just dropped something crazy. I'm talking next level championship belt, gold-plated energy. Blue Chew Gold is the newest innovation from the #1 chewable ED brand. This ain't your grandpa's little blue pill. This is the 4-in-1 beast that's setting the gold standard for performance. We're talking 2 ingredients for blood flow to keep that rocket pumping, mixed with apomorphine and oxytocin to turn up the arousal and connection in your brain and body. And here's how it's different than your typical Blue Chew. Blue Chew Gold dissolves under your tongue, and it works in as little as 15 minutes. That means you can get it quicker whenever you want it, and you can stay in the game longer whenever you want to. It's elevation without hesitation. This is peak passion and peak performance in a single tablet. And Matt, you've held more gold than most people have. There's just something different about gold, isn't there?
Yeah. And you can hold gold too. Now with this gold you can hold, your performance can be longer and harder and better. You actually be standing on top holding the gold medal.
Bro, your bed is going to be asking for an apology note after you use Blue Chew Gold. I'm telling you, it's going to be like, why are you doing this to me? Every single day you're doing this. I'm over it. But with Blue Chew Gold, why wouldn't you take advantage of it? Make life easier by getting harder and discovering your options at BlueChew.com. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Get 10% off your first month of Blue Chew Gold with code HARDY. That's promo code HARDY. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the extreme life of Matt Hardy. All right, let's roll up the sleeves. Let's dive in here, man. So last week, the last 15, 20 minutes of our podcast, we got into this conversation about the different types of wrestling that exist out there and the different types of fans, how they respond to those things. And it was a really good conversation, I thought, that was productive and interesting from both perspectives. I had talked a lot about the different promotions and the type of wrestling that each of those promotions present and what the fans from those promotions expect out of them. I encourage you guys, go into the archives, extremehardy.com, check it out. I also clipped off the full debate, put it on Matt's YouTube in full. You can read or watch any of that. But I know there's a lot that you wanted to add on top of that, because we did tape that after you had your 14-hour media day, whatever it was. And,
right.
And I knew that you were very tired. So before we dive into like the 5-star element of things, was there anything else that you wanted to add to put a cherry on top of that conversation?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to add, as we're sitting there and we're having the conversation going back and forth, my main point is I feel like when you're doing a show, so when we first started doing house shows, the first match, they would usually be asked to stay in the ring. Like, don't dive out, don't do whatever. Times changed a little bit as time went on. But I mean, that's how it was earlier in the beginning. We want this match to be like a good match, an exciting match in the beginning, but then we want all the matches to build and like save everything for the main event, whatever the main draw is, where there's like a build on the show from beginning to end. And still, I think that the most important thing on any show, on any television show, especially a wrestling television show, is like the emotional investment people have in all the different stories of what's going on. And I think on each show, you're going to pick one or two different things which you want to feature on that show. And whatever those things are, those are the matches that should dominate. They should be the one to go out and have what would be the 5-star match or the great match. I don't think every match needs that spot. You have to make things seem very important. And you said one time, said, well, why can't we do both? Why can't we have great wrestling and great storytelling? And you do. I mean, I think you can have a 7-minute match that is a solid 7-minute match. It is great wrestling, even though there's a lot of people now that will go like, well, I don't know. There wasn't enough time. They couldn't really get into the highest gear and make this match into something special. It wasn't meant to be. You're meaning these two matches that you are making the priority. That is what is supposed to be special. It's like anytime you're building a show and you're trying to build to something, like those are your main things. And I think you want things layered throughout the show. Like, here's these guys arriving. Here's these guys getting dressed. Here's these guys talking, whatever else. You're telling a story throughout the show. Boom, there's the big match. And you let them go out and they can have what is a 5-star match, whatever else. But I feel like asking everybody to go out and have a match, if it's cold and not anything else, is not the most productive thing to do. I think especially in week-to-week TV, I think the more storytelling you're doing, I think the more structured these shows are, and I think the more compelling you can make the characters. I think that's what's important, because I think matches are great. You know, I love a good match. I love a great match, no doubt about it. But I think at the end of the day, the most important thing into attracting viewers, newer viewers to your show, is compelling characters and stories.
Sure. So I think everything you said there makes a ton of sense. And you and I don't view this as differently as you might think that we do, because I think when you hear someone like me, or I don't want to speak for other fans, I can only speak for my opinion, right? When I say a great match, a 5-star match even, but a great match, it doesn't have to be, oh my God, there's a bazillion moves in this match that blew my fucking mind and was different than anything I've ever seen before. A 7-minute match can be a great match, depending on how you use those 7 minutes. How are you telling a story within those 7 minutes? What does the action look like within those 7 minutes? A great match can be Will Ospreay versus Hangman Page. A great match can be Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. I would argue both of those are 5-star matches for two totally.
I would as well.
Two totally different reasons, right? And that's not to say that Hangman Page and Ospreay was devoid of story, because it certainly wasn't. And that's not to say that Hogan and Rock wasn't devoid of action, because it certainly had action. But it's how you construct that equation. This plus this equals great match. And the beauty of wrestling is that those two, A and B to equal C, can be different each time. And that's my approach. Honest, what you just said about the whole like layering a story throughout an episode, totally agree. That's one of the best parts of the Attitude Era, right? Where Stone Cold Steve Austin arrives in his car as the show's coming on the air. What's he going to say to Vince McMahon tonight? Oh, and by the way, he's facing Triple H in the main event. And you layer that, you revisit that throughout the show, and then you have this great main event between the two of them. That's what I'm talking about, man.
And John, I just want to add to what you said. I think the Will Ospreay Hangman match, where Hangman won the title, I think that was one of the better matches AEW's ever had. That
put him up. That made him the number one contender for All In, that match.
No, number one contender for All In. Sorry.
Yeah.
That match. But because they changed directions, it seemed like last second, right? But I know Hangman is a guy who is adamant about incorporating storytelling in what he's doing. I mean, I've worked with him. I know him for a long time. And that is something that I told him, always do, always do that, whatever it is. And he's really good at it. And he's very good at doing it in subtle ways. And I know you're a fan of subtle stuff that happens in matches. He's very good at doing that.
Yeah, he's amazing at that.
With that same thing being said, if you ask me too, what a 5-star match is, I think that is a perfect match that makes people feel that you get everything out of it that you wanted. Hogan versus Rock, yes, it's a 5-star match. Even that too, like I pressed you on it last week. I said, and I asked you, and it was so funny. I'd watched it back just to verify it, because I said, "What do you think of the Hardys and Dudleys? Was it a great match?" You said, "I thought it told a good story." But I think it was a great match. I think there's some people who are going to look at that and they're going to say, "Oh, from my perspective, it was a 5-star match," because they felt very differently than other people do, because they weren't expecting people to go bonkers out there. They weren't expecting to go nuts, but the emotional involvement from the audience took that match up a totally different level. And that's what we were expecting. And that's what we also were hoping for.
For me, when it comes to that specific example, it's different for me. I have a very hard time. I try to be as fair as I can, and I always try to put the unbiased hat on. I have a very hard time talking about your matches that you're presently having because of the relationship I have with you and Jeff. Like, it's hard for me to be like, "Oh my God, that match was amazing. Oh my God, that match sucked," or anything in between, just because I've been working with you for 5 years now. I know how you think about wrestling. I know how you plot together a match. So I view it with a much different lens than what maybe another fan might be viewing it through, right? Like, I'm not watching that match expecting you guys to go out there and have your 2000s Royal Rumble tables match. I'm expecting you guys to go out there and have a very, what's the right way to describe this? Call back to your history, late in the match with your history, and provide a couple big moments in the match that bring all of that full circle, which again can be a really, really good match, because you hit the magic word, right? And I'd love for you to expand on this. It's feel something. The matches are designed to make you feel something. And the moments within those matches are what drive those feelings home. Is that fair to suggest?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is that those matches make you feel something, whatever it may be. I mean, and there are people that watch wrestling for different things in some capacities. There's some people that do love a great match or whatever it may be, but I think there's sometimes where some more casual fans, people that are just watching a match, sometimes it's overload. Like, I'm all about, there's a point in time where somebody's trying to overcome some big obstacle and someone hits their finish, and they got kicks out of it. And I totally think that's justified, especially in scenarios. I have done that, and I'm an advocate of that, especially if you're in a rivalry, which is, you're pretty deep in this rivalry, right? It can happen. Someone digs deep, and it's a good hook to what you're doing. But sometimes that is also overdone often in pro wrestling now. So I think that's something that people have to be very wary of, and some stuff has to be protected.
Yeah. And that happens everywhere. It really started happening in New Japan back in 2015, 2016. That's where
John, I want to ask you, how is New Japan's business currently?
Well, New Japan's business is not good because they lost all their stars. That's New Japan's reason for their business not being great. However, they are about to put on their biggest show in 5+ years at the Tokyo Dome this year. They sold the most tickets they've sold. They've sold well over 35,000 tickets, I believe, as we record this. It might even be higher, which is going to be Tanahashi's last match at the Dome. And the card is looking stacked for that because they have a lot of star power. Okada is going to be back on it.
When you said they lost all their stars, like, are they just older? Have they retired? Are they hurt?
No, they came to the United States. They came to AEW. They came to WWE. So they lost a lot of those guys that was part of that New Japan resurgence. The Finn Balor's, the AJ Styles, the Nakamura's, the Young Bucks, the Kenny Omegas, the Okadas. Those guys. And what New Japan wasn't really successful at, not to say they didn't try, but they weren't successful at building new stars who would be able to take over the reins and sustain things from that point. Because all of those big names came to the U.S. and that left their business kind of high and dry, unfortunately. But that's no different than the old territory days in that sense, right? Where if someone did make a big jump, that affected the territory. So,
I mean, and then at the end of the day, these guys are trying to make a living for their family and, maximize their money. So it is what it is.
But to that point that you bring up about like the kickouts and stuff, I think New Japan, that became a really big thing there.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of carried over into NXT a little bit when it was the black and gold. That started to bleed into the main roster when AEW came around, because AEW is adapting more of that New Japan style pro wrestling. And
very much so, yes.
So it starts happening on AEW, it starts happening on the WWE main roster, and now it's just kind of ingrained in wrestling where that's happening in a lot of promotions. For better or for worse, whether you like it or you don't like it, that's kind of how wrestling has evolved into that. And it sounds like, based on what you're saying, you're more of the thought of layer that stuff in carefully.
Yes, very much so. I mean, sometimes, it's very hard to, I mean, it's one of those things you ask in wrestling, and this has been asked for a long time, like, how far can you go to when it becomes too much? And then people like stop buying into anything once you go over the top. Like, what is the limit? Or is there a thing you can pull it back to? Or, where is the limit? What, especially to maximize. I mean, I think obviously if you're running a wrestling company, you're wanting to maximize eyeballs on your product. You're wanting to maximize the amount of tickets that are coming in the door. You want to fill up those arenas, whatever else. What is the true formula to do that? And even let me throw this question at you, John. What do you think is the best formula to do that? To put more eyeballs on your television product, to put more full seats into the arena that you're running. What is the best formula in 2026?
I think you just have to have people caring about the people that are on your product. I think that's the underlying of all of this. They need to.
Okay, no, I agree with you.
Fans need to be invested.
I think
in who they
exactly
see.
That's what it is. They have to care about those people. They have to want to come in and buy a ticket, or they want to have to turn on the TV to see what they're going to do, like to support their guy or their gal. I want to see them win because I give a shit about them. And I think that's what's more important at the end of the day, more than anything else.
But where we differ on that is, I think that you can want to see someone and care about someone for a variety of different reasons. I don't think it has to just be storyline based. Like, storylines are super important in wrestling. No doubt about it. I am in full agreement that you need to have quality stories that you're actually writing that then give way to the matches, where the matches are then the story beats within that help accentuate the ultimate story that you're trying to tell. But I'll use a Will Ospreay for an example, right? Will Ospreay, you've said it many times, he's maybe the most electric performer in wrestling history with what he's capable of doing. I think there is a portion of the wrestling audience that would buy tickets to see Will Ospreay perform just as much as they would if he was in a storyline about a specific topic. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say with that?
Sure. Sure.
Okada, his lore alone was enough to get people curious into him coming, not a storyline that they integrated him into. That's my belief on that. Not to say one's more important than the other, but I'm just a believer that it can come from a variety of places.
Right.
So
let me ask you this, John, real quick, off the top of your head, like rapid response.
Mm-hmm.
What is the greatest Shawn Michaels moment?
The greatest Shawn Michaels moment? Mm-hmm. I would say it's between "I'm Sorry I Love You" and probably his retirement with Taker. That whole, that run there.
What's the great Stone Cold Steve Austin moment? Rapid fire.
Him defeating Shawn Michaels to win the title, and him and Vince. Anything him and Vince.
Yeah, yeah. Also, the thing with him and Brett stands out a lot too. The match that made him.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're talking like pure one camera shot, yes, it's him with the bloody face. No questions asked. Yes.
Yeah. What is the greatest Will Ospreay moment?
Greatest Will Ospreay moment, I would say he and Danielson, the stare down the two of them had, or the thing that really put him on the map, he and Ricochet, that sequence from back in 2016.
Mm-hmm. Very good. What about what is the greatest Hangman Adam Page moment?
Greatest Hangman Adam Page moment would be probably him winning the big one and defeating Kenny Omega for the first time.
Very good. Just something else too, like the more moments you can tie to a guy, the more successful that guy will be too.
Of course, absolutely.
You know? Which is just something, once again, just rapid fire. Because even when you said that about Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many.
You could pick a few, absolutely.
You know what I mean, and that's what I say this a lot too. You know, and I mean, I'm sure you've heard this phrase. You know, moments are more important than moves. When it's all said and done, and the more moments you can tie to a guy, then the more equity you build into that guy.
Yeah, I just always approach it with, why can't you care about both? Because I do feel, and I'm not saying this is you, but I do feel there are a lot of people, especially from colleagues of yours, who are like, no, it has to be this. It has to be this. Like, no one gives a shit about the moves. Okay, well, guess what? The moves have made some of those people legendary because those moves gave ways to moments.
I mean, of course they do. Of course they do. I mean, like you know, especially signature moves are going to be very important. You know, but just I think in the right structure and in the right framework, you know, yeah, a match in general is going to be very important, especially if you got the right stakes and the right circumstances around it, whatever else. But just a match for a sake of a match isn't always as worthwhile as, you know, it may appear, especially if there's nothing truly behind the match.
Sure. I would argue that people who suggest that, not you, I'm saying this in a general sense, that people who suggest that that happens all the time just aren't actually watching these shows. Like, for example, right now AEW is doing the Continental Classic. Okay, that's their big in-ring tournament they do every year for anyone not watching. I personally hate the stakes of the Continental Classic. I think the stakes are stupid beyond belief. The unified title that was once the Continental Classic title.
They're a little convoluted, right?
It's beyond convoluted. I don't understand why this tournament is not like the G1, where it's just you win, you become the number one contender, or even you win, you become the champion of the company. Like, I think if this is where the best wrestle, then this tournament should be that. But I digress. I'm putting that out there to show that I'm playing this very fairly. I can't stand that. However, they use the tournament, which is built around just having great matches, as a vehicle for telling stories. For example, Jon Moxley right now. The story they're telling with him is that Jon Moxley can't win matches anymore. He went from being the most dominant force in AEW that always found a way to win and was willing to go to whatever length to win, to he can no longer win a match. And he's not willing to cheat anymore. Because clearly, Matt, they're telling a story where he's going to get kicked out of the Death Riders. And last year, they told a story with Daniel Garcia. He needed to win a match to prove to himself that he was among the best in AEW, and he couldn't get that win. And he finally got that win at the end. So I'm all for wanting to have more of that story. But I think there are promotions, whether it's AEW or WWE's done this and others, where those matches are used as vehicles to tell the stories rather than the story being the vehicle to the match. Matt, any longtime Extreme Life of Matt Hardy fan knows that when you get older, your skills just deteriorate a little bit, don't they?
Yes. And so does your collagen.
It certainly does. And getting older hits harder than you expect. One day you wake up with stiff joints, recovery from the gym takes longer, your hair is thinning, your nails are breaking, and your skin just doesn't have that same smooth glow anymore. Aging generally sucks, but it doesn't have to, because that's where Bubs Naturals collagen peptides come in. Starting in your mid-20s, your body naturally produces less collagen every single year. And collagen is the protein that actually holds everything together. It's literally the glue of the body. So with Bubs, you can help restore collagen levels closer to what your body naturally had in its youth, back when the Hardy Boys were jumping on trampolines. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, and I have done exactly that. Fortunately, I am taking Bubs, and they have joined us here at the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
They certainly
collagen peptides, the Bubs. Here we go. There it is. The collagen peptides that Bubs are producing are money. I've taken several of these products, and this is the best I've taken yet. And I recommend you pick them up right now. We want you to save money by using a very special code, and that code is Hardy, Hardy. And you get on these collagen peptides as well, and they will do it for you as you get a little older. You can still look young. You can still feel young. You'll have skin that glows. You'll have beautiful hair. Look at this nice head of hair at 51.
Oh, you got a good head of hair.
You know what I mean? So jump right on, and you can do it too.
Here's what people really like about Bubs. You just mix it into your drink, coffee, smoothie, juice, whatever it is. It's tasteless, it's odorless, and it dissolves instantly. No clumps, no weird aftertaste. And what makes Bubs truly different is the brand is actually a tribute to former Navy SEAL Glenn Bub Doherty, who's a national hero who gave his life saving Americans in Benghazi, Libya. Glenn's call sign was actually Bub, Matt, and he was the kind of guy who always pushed for self-improvement and helped everyone around him. And that DNA is woven into the Bubs brand. And so to honor him, Bubs actually donates 10% of all profits to charity, starting with the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation, which I know that's something you're all about.
Indeed, I absolutely am. And I have to tell you, I have been taking this product for a little over a week now, and I am feeling the effects of it, and it has been one of the best peptides I've ever used.
I love to hear that. That's super, super critical for you at this time in your career too, to make sure that you're rebuilding good. And on top of that, Bubs is built to the highest standards. So there's no junk, zero sugar, sweeteners, fillers. It's third-party tested, NSF certified for sport, Whole30 approved, and sustainably sourced from grass-fed, pasture-grazed cattle. And it's trusted by over 100,000 customers and was named the best collagen of 2024 by health.com. So live better longer. For a limited time only, our listeners are getting 20% off of Bubs Naturals by using that code that Matt mentioned, Hardy, at checkout. Just head to bubsnaturals.com and use code Hardy, and you're all set. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them that the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy sent you.
Do you think those stories are geared towards more diehard fans as opposed to casual fans, the term that you are not a fan of?
Why would a story about the guy who's been the leader of the most dominant group in your promotion slowly being revealed as a fraud and being kicked out by his own members, why would that be a diehard fan story? That's a story that's been done in wrestling for decades. Like, it's happened with DX. It's happened with, I don't know, the Bullet Club. I mean, I don't understand how that's.
I'm just asking.
Aimed at no, and I'm being genuine here. I'm not being facetious.
Sure.
Like, why would that only be aimed at a diehard fan? That's it. If you're telling your fans, hey, this guy, it means everything to him to be one of the top guys in this company, and he can't even get a win. And that's making you feel with the person because they're struggling so hard mentally and physically to get a win. Why would that?
He doesn't want to destroy AEW anymore. When did that change? When did that?
No, I'm not. I'm talking. That's a separate story. I'm talking about the Garcia. But yeah, the Moxley thing. It's not that he hasn't officially said that, but it's becoming clear that he's having doubts in how they went about business before, and now he wants to, start doing things more ethically. And it's slow. It's been a very slow change, but they're using the tournament as the vehicle to prove that there's this change coming and that the people within the Death Riders want to kick him out because of it, because he's gotten soft. That's happened in the last month and a half. So
gotcha. That's the story I was even addressing earlier when I asked you that question, was about the Moxley story. I must admit I'm not up to speed on it.
No, and that's not me I'm not here to carry water for them. I don't really give a shit either way, honestly. It's just, it's
Right.
like, I think it's just a mentality of, let me ask you this. When I say, or when you say better, when you say there needs to be story leading into this match, what do you think of when you say story? Like, what qualifies a pro wrestling story to be digested as a story?
I just think you have to I think you have to fully understand someone's intentions and their motivations and what they're wanting to do, what they're wanting to achieve, what their purpose is. And I think you need to hear from them. I think I think you need to very clearly understand like what their motivations are moving forward.
100% agree on that. No questions. That's the most important part of any form of storytelling, right? But I think with you specifically, when people hear you criticizing something like this, they say, well, he's the guy who did Broken Matt Hardy. He's the guy who had the storyline with Edge. They'll think, well, Matt Hardy only views it through storytelling has to be soap opera. It has to be a soap opera. It has to be super over the top characters. It has to be super controversial. How do you feel about that? Does storytelling have to be that way? I really want to know how you feel about that.
I don't think it has to be that way. I think it's easier to do that way.
How so?
No doubt. I think if it's more crystal clear, it's easier. It's less complicated. I think anyone who is watching wrestling, regardless of how big of a wrestling fan they are, regardless of how much they know, if they're actually watching it, it's like, oh, okay, I kind of get what's going on. You know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I've done. Somebody said, like, yeah, Matt Hardy's never told any story in his life. I was like, what? I mean, I just sat there and rambled off 12 things right off the top. You know, go back and watch me in MVP. Matt loses weight and something which I was given as like, I was taken away from a real story. And this is like, well, we don't have this, but we'll give you this little nugget. And then I made it into something, you know. There's been a ton of shit. And especially the whole broken Matt Brother Nero thing, which was like a long story, which if we wouldn't have followed through with it, people would say, oh my God, remember when they tried that? It was a disaster. But like we stuck the course and TNA allowed us to, and like we made it work and we turned into like the hottest thing in wrestling at one point. I can respect that. Everything you're saying, I can respect that and understand where you're coming from. I think it is I think if you are I shouldn't describe it like that. I was going to say, I think if you are blatantly out front saying like, this is kind of what's going on, this is the scenario, there's no mystery about it. You're not leaving it for the person to like think like, maybe this means this. If you're just blatantly put it out there, it's easier to get someone emotionally invested in your story. I think there are other things that you can do, especially people that are more diehard wrestling fans, as the sickos. You described the sickos as guys who love great wrestling. Those guys are going to watch and they're going to be thinking into those small details, like, oh, well, maybe this means this, maybe this means this. And you know, I get that. I am not saying that is impossible. I'm not. Yes, you could tell a story that way in theory. Would the general audience get it every time, or would they understand it? I don't know.
Because I would argue that in 2025, the majority of wrestling fans, not just the sickos or whoever, WWE fans, TNA fans, I don't think that the soap operatic nature of the Attitude Era lands today. Now, you got really fortunate, and it was all due to your hard work. You worked your ass off on making the broken character stuff work. Because, as you remember, when it debuted, everyone was like, what the fuck is this?
Yep.
But you worked your ass off, and you leaned into the bit. And if you hadn't leaned into the bit, I don't think it would have worked. But you leaned into it, and you got it over, and it made sense. And it was ridiculous. Even when it didn't make sense, you made it made sense. But I don't think that that type of storytelling works in a general sense anymore, where I think people prefer nuance a lot more See the Bloodline storyline. See the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre storyline, where there's a lot of nuanced things that happen within these characters that get them over the course of having great matches to their final destination. And I think there's a perfect example of it not working, of being, look at 2018, 2019 Vince McMahon. You were there for this. When Roman Reigns is being fed dog food, when they're having in 2022 with Austin Theory with the golden egg and what's in the golden egg. Like that stuff just doesn't land anymore in the way that it might have used to, because culture's changed, society's changed, storytelling has changed.
No, I don't disagree with you there, especially like you said, the Roman Reigns thing and the over the top feeding him dog food or whatever. It was like, yeah. Like, no, I do agree with you there. I mean, there is nuance. I just, even like the CM Punk thing. I mean, it was CM Punk and Drew was kind of based off that bracelet too, right? Wasn't that a big deal of the whole thing?
Yeah, they integrated the bracelet into it, but that was also drawing from real life, right? Sure. That was a real thing that they incorporated.
That is something I feel that is, if something seems authentic, they'll buy into it a lot more.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, the thing we are doing with the Righteous, which you'll be seeing over the next few weeks of TV, is going to come off as very authentic. It has their flavor to it, which is the Righteous. They're these cult members, right? And, they show up and you'll see their motivation soon with what's happening. But I feel like people are gonna follow this, and it's gonna seem very authentic. And I'm very happy to be able to delve into these guys. We worked with them at AEW, but I mean, it was a big nothing burger because it was like a match and no story, whatever. But I mean, there's like a good story, and like people are gonna be into this. By the time we get to, that first episode of AMC and Genesis, people are going to be very into what we're doing. They're going to be emotionally invested. I would bet money on it.
And I'll give you another example where nuance meets more of that over-the-top form of storytelling, where it does work, is Bray Wyatt becoming the Fiend, where the Firefly Funhouse segments, which I know you were such a huge fan of.
Sure.
At first, it just seems totally ridiculous, and you're like, what is going on here? And then you start to realize these small little things within it are actually reflections of Bray, and they're part of who he is, and they're part of why he's undergoing this character change. And it leads to him becoming this character. And that's where the supernatural form of storytelling with the actual legitimate character development side come together, and they meet, and then it creates moments that happen afterwards, where you can have a great match. You can have a match that is full of great moments in it. So that's where I think we're at right now. And when you said last week how you would really emphasize, if you were in TNA creative, like storytelling, I think what some people might have come away with, and this is why I want to give you a chance to expand on this, is, well, that means that there's going to be more crazy over the top characters and supernatural things. And, what we saw out of the Vince Russo era, like, is there a correlation to that when you say something like that?
No, I am not. I am not thinking about a Vince Russo booking perspective in any capacity. No doubt about it. No, I mean, things do have to come off as being authentic. I mean, things have to come off as being realistic to a degree. I mean, the broken Matt Hardy thing was a stretch. I tried that. It's something I can always go back to, even though it pisses people off. Like, it's so funny when people go, "Oh my God, he did that like 10 years ago. Why is he bringing that back for NXT?" Because it's like part of who I am.
Yeah,
it's like it's established. It's a feature, so it's something we can always go back to. Like the character of Matt Hardy, you're always going to be that guy. If I end up popping out as Big Money Matt, I mean, it's something I'm accepted as. People know what it is. It's like, God, get over yourself. It's like part of my history. It's part of my persona. It's part of who I am. But no, as far as new things, like and Jeff and I, we have this thing that we've been wanting to do for a while, and that we've been talking about doing, and the more we talked about it this week, I think this thing with the Righteous we're doing is the perfect bridge to get there, where Jeff and I want to go in a direction we've never been before, which I think would be pretty exciting. And I think it would feel very authentic, and maybe even every once in a while I'll pop off. Maybe that even leans into it a little bit. So I don't believe in doing shit that is outrageous. I would like to do things that make sense. I would like to do things that have plenty of great continuity, and I don't want to do things that are going to insult people's intelligence. I want to do things that are authentic, that seem real to a degree. But with that same thing being said, I think you can add some fun elements into these things. You can add some twists and turns and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I want to provide quality entertainment, quality storytelling when it's all said and done. And I think we have a great group of people at TNA that can kind of do that. And I also think there's a lot of people out there, as we talked about before, on the indie scene and whatnot, they could come in, they could potentially be people that could help TNA. There's still a lot of people out there that could contribute and could add to the roster when it's all said and done. So I'm very excited for the future. And once again, this AMC is a game changer, especially when it comes to eyeballs on your product, because this is something that's on every basic cable format. And I'm just really excited for this opportunity to see how great we can make this. Like, I don't want anyone to squander this opportunity. I want us to come out of the gate busting ass.
There was something, and we can wrap with this. I wanted to ask you this. One of my subscribers on WrestlingAccordingToAlba.com, and they're big Hardy fans. They appreciate the shit out of the Hardys, but they listened to the conversation and they're like, I want to ask Matt this, so I'm going to ask it on their behalf for you.
Great.
You talked a lot last week about, and even here this week too, about how moves don't mean as much as the story, right? What happens in the ring doesn't mean as much as the
I said moments. I didn't say
moments are part of that.
Moves.
Sure.
I think I think emotional investment in storytelling is more important than matches.
Okay. Couldn't you make an argument that you, specifically you, not your brother, you made a lot of your career off of the story, the character stuff, and leading to those moments in the matches? Whereas your brother, who was at one point bigger than Obama, one of the most successful
PTO.
One of the most successful names.
Terminology now for it.
It is. I like it. He was one of the most successful names of his era, period, as a singles guy even. What super notable Jeff Hardy storylines can you come up with during his peak that got him over? Wouldn't you be able to argue, not to say that there weren't, like the Punk storyline with him and his story with you, WrestleMania 25. But couldn't you argue that a lot of Jeff's success was built through what he did in matches and how he connected with people through his actions in matches?
Yeah, I think Jeff has a unparalleled charisma. He has an unparalleled connection with people. A very great gift. He's a really unique spirit and soul, as we know. I think one of the biggest things that connected him, especially once he finally became the champion, is people had seen the story of this guy who had fucked up a few times. He got released in the beginning. He got better. He came back. He fucked up again. Oh, he got popped again. He fucked up. But it was a guy that would never quit. He would never stop. He would never stop. He was never stopped. And then eventually he goes on to win the title. And I think there's a lot of people who go, like, you know what? I have fucked up a lot in my life over and over. I've made mistakes multiple times. And fuck, if this guy can do it, then fucking maybe I can too. I think that is the most compelling point of what made Jeff more popular than anything else in his entire career.
But that's not necessarily a storyline that was written. I agree 100% with you, by the way. That's not a storyline that was
not. It's very. I think the whole Jeff Hardy thing almost transcends pro wrestling, especially his connection with audiences.
Okay, because I think there's a lot of people where if you just take their authenticity is what ultimately leads to them connecting. John Cena is a great example of this too, where sure, John had some interesting storylines over the years, but what people most resonated with were not the storylines that he was in. It was, this is the real embodiment of rise above hate, never give up.
Right.
And that story that he would use his matches to tell, like he's going to do this weekend against Gunther, where one last time he's going to try to rise above hate and never give up. That connected with viewers probably more than any actual storyline that John was ever in. It's just an interesting point about and I think it's a fair point, at least, that he made
It is.
about,
It is a fair point, no doubt.
you know,
And I applaud them for asking that question.
yeah. So, because I just think when people hear storytelling in wrestling, a lot of people automatically go to, well, that means that one character's cheating on another character, or there's a robbery in their house, and now who's to blame? Like, I think a lot of wrestling fans associate that when someone's like, there's no storytelling. But it doesn't sound like that's the case necessarily for you.
No, that's not what I'm pitching. I do want things to be authentic, and I think authenticity is so real. I mean, they're everything is so open and out there about pro wrestling. Like, things have to, like the whole Broken Matt thing was a truly different experiment altogether. Like, I told when I was going to do it, I'm going to be very different. I mean, Jeff says that. Jeff says, yeah, Matt told me, like, hey, I want you to, like, put me through a table, like a real crazy bump, and, like, I'm going to dye a blonde streak in my hair, and I'm going to be different. I'm going to be really, really different. I'm like, okay. And then, I started doing that. And even the first time I went out and I talked in the Broken Matt accent, I didn't tell anybody I was going to do that. I just fucking went out there and did it because I could do that at TNA. And I kept pushing and pushing and made it work. And, like, they asked me to, go on Wrestling Observer and do it. I said, fine, I'm going to talk about being 2,000 years old. Like, I'm not going to talk about fucking work rate. What fucking people thought I was like Carl Anderson told me, like, he'd never met me then, right? He's like, holy fuck, Matt's fucked up again. He's fucking back. He's back on the shit or whatever, like, must be eating pills again, whatever.
Yep.
And I said, like, fucking, I'd never been more sober in my life.
Right.
Like, dude, like, this is part of the deal, especially if you're doing, and you only really get one opportunity to do that. That's why I play, one of the things I remember talking with Orange Cassidy, like, I loved working with Orange Cassidy, and he's so nice. Jim's such a sweetheart. Like, he'd say, like, oh, Matt was so good. He taught me so much. It's like, dude, like, do this as long as you can. Because, like, once you break this and, like, you're no longer the thing of Orange Cassidy, it loses a lot of its appeal, and you have to go into something different. It is what it is. Like, once you get into that in pro wrestling, if you're an aspiring pro wrestler, if you get people to buy into whatever persona it is you're playing, especially if it is something extreme or something out there, whatever else, you kind of got to stick with it as long as you can, because once you break that, you're going to lose that flavor, because people are only going to buy into you as strong as they do when they, like, question it, when they're not sure how real it is, when they think, like, maybe this is authentic, maybe this guy's fucked up, I don't know. Like, it's very important. You have to protect that image to a degree. And we live in a hard business to do that, but there are those characters that fall into those areas where they can play that character. And, like, as long as you can protect that character, protect it. Because, like, once you fully come out of it, like, especially on screen, on camera, then it's kind of hard to go back into it with that same appeal.
I definitely understand everything you're saying there. And Cassidy is actually a really good example of kind of the point that I'm making, where, like, if you throw Orange Cassidy, who is a weird, outlandish character, right? If you throw him in a storyline of this person tried to burn his house down or whatever, it doesn't work. But the storytelling with Orange Cassidy has to be more nuanced, and it has to be a little more subtle. And I think that's what got him over when he got over in AEW and got put in the main event scene, is because these top heel characters were disrespecting who he was. And then it became a whole story about who are his actual friends, what makes him tick, when is he willing to go to that next level. And I think wrestling fans really appreciate that when you do that stuff. And
you have to have people willing to work with Jim, with Orange Cassidy, that are willing to do his stuff. Like,
yep.
I'm more than happy to. Fuck, I'm the guy who played Broken Matt Hardy.
Right, sure.
Like, I was like, yeah, let's do this. Like, let me do a thing and pull out cash. You drop kick me, I'll throw all the cash in there. Like, that's something I added to enhance him. And I feel like even when we were doing our story, it could have been better, but, like, we would do something and then, like, we would, like, be apart for 2 weeks and do anything and then, like, pick back up. It lacked continuity in what we were doing. And I felt like that hurt us in that aspect. I wish we could have done something regularly, week to week to week. If it had been really, like, I felt like our week to week TV continuation of our rivalry wasn't done as well as it could have been.
Yeah. And, like, that whole period of time for you too, what I've told you I love so much about your Hangman stuff that you did was there was a lot of nuance to that, and it played into Hangman's larger story, which was about learning to trust people around him and finding it's okay to find friends when your other friends turn their back on you. And like, it was so great in how all those little things were layered, even on a micro level. You guys, when you do the little signature on the contract, like that stuff is good stuff and it's nuanced. So I just think that
and I liked all that. I thought it was really strong stuff too. I thought the whole thing I did with Adam was really strong.
I just don't think we have to hit people over the head like dummies and be like, here's the story, here's the story, here's the story. Like, let's give the audience respect, and let's.
I was about to say that earlier, and I said, I better not say that. I was going to say hit them over the head, but yeah. I do think the more you kind of you let them know, like I think it's okay to show those replays and remind people of what happened last week, and this refresh people. Like I think you need to try and keep everyone as looped in as you possibly can, because you don't know who may have not watched last week, whatever else.
That's not the same though as hitting them over the head, Matt. That's not the same as hitting them over the head is like making something very obvious. What you just said,
I didn't even want, that's why I didn't say hitting them over the head. I didn't want to go to that extent. I didn't want to go to that extreme. I want to remind people. I want to make sure people are always looped in. Make sure they're always looped in every single week.
Like hitting them over the head, for an example, would be when you and Jeff are feuding in 2009 and all these things that are bad are happening to Jeff, and the camera just pans over to you going like, you know what I mean? Like, that's hitting fans over the head with a story, which thankfully they didn't do any of that. So, yeah, I agree with you. Always remind your fans of what the story is, but you don't have to hit them over the head with it. This is good stuff, man. Really good stuff. And I think that there's a much more thorough understanding of perspective here with where you're coming from.
I agree. I'm actually awake today. I'm like, I'm awake and cognizant and aware of like what I'm doing.
Yes, certainly.
As opposed to just going through the motions.
Certainly so. Well, anything else you want to add on this?
No, good conversation. Very enjoyable conversation today.
Yes, I agree entirely. And I think we're on a good foundation there as we head into John Cena's last match, which, by the way, they're going to tell a freaking incredible story in that match. I have no doubt about it. And they're going to use that match to lean into both characters specifically. That didn't need a crazy storyline. It was very simply laid out. It's going to be awesome. So I'm stoked. It could be a 5-star match. Who's to say? Who's to say?
Who's to say, man?
Well, I can tell you this. This is a... go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I got one funny text from talent said, "Hey, I don't even know who's that smug asshole John Alba." He said, "I watched that. I watched your guys' clip, and I'm still mad. I'm still mad right now."
Look, that's fine. I get the smug. Look, Billy Gunn told me I had a very punchable face. You know, I mean, I'm used to that. That's not. But I didn't think I said anything last week that was like controversial. It's just we're playing off of each other, you know. If the most controversial thing I said was why can't we have both good matches and good storytelling, then I can rest easy with that. But yeah, I think one thing that makes us good at this is that we are open to challenging each other, and even if it's not something you fully believe in, playing the devil's advocate of that is very important to present a conversation, and it's important to present an argument, as long as it's in good faith. I'm a big believer in that. So,
dude, on any topic, anywhere in society, conversation, being able to actually have a productive conversation back and forth is how anything is dealt with. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't do that, then there's problems.
Absolutely. And if you want to tell
you
that,
have to be able to do that. That's the only way. I mean, especially if you're trying to solve something, an issue, whatever. And I feel like that's something that is lacking in today's society. Like, those conversations aren't being held like they need to be held.
Absolutely. And if you want to tell that talent that they are welcome to chat with me anytime about it. I'm more than happy to talk to them about it. Or you can tell them to visit advertisewithhardy.com, where they can promote their product or their business and in front of thousands of people every single week here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. That's advertisewithhardy.com. Good stuff, man. Anything else you want to promote, throw out this week?
No, I'm good. I was just gonna say, make sure to get your fill of TNA Impact the next few weeks. Some really good content coming up as we are heading home, man. We're getting ready to enter a brand new era of TNA. What I think is going to be the biggest TNA era ever, the AMC era.
Looking forward to it. The words have been spoken. We'll see you next time right here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Delete!